So Liverpool taking on Spurs at Anfield Saturday night, massive game in terms of this title run in England. Of course, this looks like one of the key fixtures where Liverpool could drop points, but at the moment, doesn't look like anyone can get close to them. Could Spurs do it? We'll come to that a little bit later on. But I'm going to talk about two key players in this match. New signings in January for both clubs. Dejan Kulusevski and, of course, Luis Diaz at Liverpool. Both have really hit the ground running. The question for you is which of them has been the better buy so far for their clubs, of course. What do you think, James?
I think this is really easy, and I think people will disagree with me, but I think it's pretty obvious, especially when I look at the numbers here. Kulusevski has been a far more integral and important signing, certainly in the Premier League in particular, than Luis Diaz this season. And in terms of what Spurs needed and the ripple effect of having someone like Kulusevski in the side, first and foremost, he was needed, and you've seen that in terms of the amount of 90s that he's played. He's played 11 90s. Luis Diaz has only played 7. Then you go into the goals and the assists. Both scored 3 goals in the Premier League. Kulusevski's got 8 assists. And then after that, you think about just watching it with your 2 eyes, you know. Kane, so much better. Son, so much better. Working up, working back. I think he's been integral. Whereas Luis Diaz, as brilliant as he is, and he is absolutely brilliant, and he's been crucial in terms of coming on, that is a far better squad for Liverpool. And so it's not kind of Luis Diaz's fault here, really, but Kulusevski, in terms of coming in and a transfer coming and being needed, having an impact, and getting Spurs into the Champions League, which is obviously so important. I think he's been a much better signing than Luis Diaz, in my opinion. Do you agree?
Do you know what? You've made a very strong argument there. I understand what you're saying, because Kulusevski's coming into the club, I think, turned the form around at Tottenham a lot. You mentioned those assists. I think that was key in the early stages to helping them get results. Now they are a much better functioning team. But you've got to understand, Luis Diaz can't turn a losing side into a winning side if he joins Liverpool. It's impossible, because they win every week, right? So you can't look at the results. You can't look at the results and argue it from that perspective. So where can you argue it from? Well, I think this is not just on Luis Diaz's head. I think it's been absolutely sensational from Liverpool. They have scouted and found a player who works for their system in terms of their work rate, in terms of their ability on the ball, in terms of their ability to get into the penalty area and have shots at goal and create chances. He is exactly what Liverpool have needed. He fits like a glove. That's why I think he's been the better buy, because he's going to be there and he's going to be very successful for a big number of years. It just clicks immediately with him. The only thing that I would say in terms of why I think he's a better buy is that he has got into a team that is probably at the time, in terms of their form, the best team in the world. And he's becoming, I wouldn't say he's there just yet, but he's becoming a key player. If the Champions League final was tomorrow, I honestly believe he would start that game. That is magnificent for a player to come in who hasn't even been playing in what's perceived as the big 5 leagues in Europe, to come in from Portugal and have that effect at a club like Liverpool. You have to say he's been the better buy. I mean, we're talking about currently, you know, off the top of your head, if you were to name sort of the top 10 informed players in the world, you know, he's gone from who is Luis Diaz on the day of his signing, you know, and all these Portuguese journalists having to explain to us what his game's like, to every single football fan saying, yeah, in terms of form right now, he's in the top 10 in the world. That's amazing.
But he's also, I think he has the fortunes, the other side of it, is just the fortune of playing in the Champions League. That's something that Spurs aren't doing. And also, you're right. There's further distance that he can take a team, but also I think it's easier for him to flourish in a team that's flourishing. Whereas Kulusevski's gone into a team that wasn't and has been fantastic. In terms of goal creating actions per 90, 1.14, over a goal creating action per game, be it a goal or assist. Luis Diaz per 90, 0.38 in a flourishing Liverpool side. Heading towards the game now, and the broader context, of course, is that the Premier League is still up for grabs. I think we're all still in Champions League mode. Liverpool will be playing in that Champions League final. Their opponents, when it comes to the Premier League title, Man City, will not. And I mean, a lot of discussion over how they lost, why they lost, and how that might affect them moving forward. Just a quick minute or so on this then. How do you feel that will affect it? Do you think Liverpool will continue to sort of smell blood and just concentrate on themselves and try and get through this game? And importantly, how will Man City cope with it in their game against Newcastle, Hugh?
Listen, if we look back on the Champions League this week, I do think both sides will be affected by how things went. They are, and it has been underlined several times, different sides. Although brilliant on their day and equally brilliant on their day, Liverpool play with more urgency. They are more of a street fighter compared with the thoroughbred of Manchester City. And I think actually that's what makes them a better team. They feel the game a little bit more. Manchester City play football like they're walking in the clouds, a heavenly style of football. They don't seem to realise when they've been dragged back down to earth. And even more, they've got absolutely no comprehension of when they're in the quicksand and they're sinking. There's just no alertness. There's no urgency to it. It's weird. It's like we play the game beautifully, and if we win, which we usually do, that's great. With their backs against the wall in the biggest games, we think back to the Champions League final last year, they don't really respond. There's just never that, you want to shake them almost. There isn't that second gear of, oh my God, we're in it right now. It's hit the fan. What do we do now?
Yeah.
We've got to lift it. We've got to fight. We've got to do everything tooth and nail. They make the errors that I don't think Liverpool would make. And one thing that they do, and look, we always talk about losing games being a defensive issue, but actually for Manchester City, a lot of the times when they lose games or it doesn't go their way, it's because in the final third, they haven't delivered. Actually, that is the major problem for me. And that's because they seem to think, well, we'll get another chance. There'll be another chance. There'll be another opportunity to score. Don't worry. And actually, when it doesn't come, when the ball doesn't hit the back of the net, they don't really know what to do. And actually, look, I don't think they're going to lose the Premier League title. I think had they gone through to the final and their focus was on that, then probably Liverpool would have won the Premier League title. But actually, with 4 games to go for Manchester City, with a shock to the system, they will now wake up and say, come on, if we're going to save our season, we have to win these 4. And actually, I think they will raise the level and they'll be okay in the Premier League.
Coming back to Liverpool and Spurs, you've got a situation here where certainly Liverpool cannot drop a point. They cannot drop a single point. And so going into this game, I think there's 2 key battles here and 2 key players for each side. For me, it feels like it's Kane and it's Son. And then in terms of hurting Liverpool, I wouldn't focus on Trent because we know what Trent's going to do. He's going to move forward. But in that space behind him, be it Matip or be it Konaté on that right-hand side, Heung-min Son will be going up against him. And with the vision that Kane has, he will be looking for Heung-min Son. And so the 2 players when it comes to Liverpool, for me, is Matip and actually Alisson. Alisson's got 20 clean sheets this season. He's been fantastic and it is amazing in those one-on-ones. But there will come a time in the game where Son will be through one-on-one. And can Matip recover? Can Kane find Son? Can Son score his one-on-ones? That's where this game gets won or lost a little bit for me, in my opinion, because I think Liverpool will obviously score goals, but Spurs will then need to offer us something in the other direction. And with that space that's left behind Trent a lot of the time and the way that Spurs play, you saw it with the games against Man City, Spurs have had a lot of joy. I wonder if they might be able to get some joy, but they'll have to score those one-on-ones. It could come down to something as finite as that. I think it's going to be a really, really tight game. I actually think I've got a funny feeling this will be a draw. I've got a really funny feeling this could be a 1-1, maybe a 2-2. How do you see this one panning out here?
I tend to agree, which is going to get us a lot of abuse, actually. Yeah, because I think Antonio Conte will have a plan. I think the fact that Tottenham have this extra rest, they've been able to focus on this match for longer, will help them with that organisation and carrying it out. And of course, Liverpool have had a lot of emotional investment in their week. They've travelled abroad. Maybe that will affect them this weekend a little bit. It will be a tough game. It will obviously be a close game as well. Harry Kane dropping deep, being able to turn and find Son, I think that's key. I think that's the only way Tottenham are going to be on the score sheet in this game. And no one seems to have been able to stop it. So I think that's going to be a really intriguing contest. I actually think Harry Kane dropping deep is more about the midfield. Whoever's in there, Thiago, if he's going to be the deepest one, Fabinho, they need to be very aware of Harry Kane coming into that midfield area, turning and trying to get those passes away. Because if there is a high line, Heung-min Son will exploit it. If points are dropped this weekend, I think that's it for the title race. It'll all be Manchester City's. But let us know what you think down in the comments. Will Spurs get a point, at least a point, away at Anfield?
Hi guys, James Allcott here from ESPN's Football Forecast. Thank you for watching. If you've enjoyed the video and you want to check out more, make sure you subscribe to ESPN UK.